The Last of the 20 by Joseph N. Wdowski. The family. Miller and the robots were escorted by the family members onto the farm grounds. Walking up a small drive, on their left was a large dairy barn, an old farmhouse, and the fenced-in grazing fields for the dairy cows and bulls and a few horses. To his right, the large field had just been planted rows of sweet corn. They also had planted small rows of peas, spinach, lettuce, kale, carrots, radishes, garlic, and broccoli. None at this time of year were ready for harvesting. Along the drive, dozens of white, brown, and reddish feathered chickens ran about freely, clucking as they pecked at the ground around them for insects to feed upon. There were also white feathered domesticated farm ducks, with broad, bright orange beaks swimming in a nearby, small pond on the right side of the private road. As they moved up the drive, he then spotted several large turkeys. One of the male turkeys was fanning out his tail, attempting to impress the turkey hens. Moving further north up the farm drive, he was able to spot, built next to the northern side of the barn, was a pig pen. Next to the pig pen, further from the road, was a small fenced-in pen with a few goats and llamas. Miller noted the family members were raising and growing much more than their small community would ever need. At the northern end of the long drive was a fairly large greenhouse. "What are you growing in there?" Miller asked the group. "It is some cucumbers, but mostly hemp." 124 answered. "Yes, your machine is correct." The petite first woman who approached him said, "By the way, my name is Lisa. What is yours?" Yes, what is your name?" all the children sang out and skipped around him as they each shouted out their names to Miller. "I am Commander Miller." He gestured to his robotic companions. "This is MCS 124, and the robotic mule doesn't have a name." "That is because it is a stupid machine." Injected 124. They stopped before the greenhouse. To the right and left of the structure were large, olive-green-colored military tents. It was what the family members used for housing. Miller noticed that smoke funnels rose out of each tent, all releasing grayish smoke. Miller could smell that they were all burning wood. Surprising himself, he found the scent of wood burning comforting. Miller looked at the farmhouse behind the large barn. Why not live in a house? Wouldn't that be better to weather the winters than the tents? Before any of the family members could reply, 124 answered, "My scans show major structural damage due to water seeping through the roof. The structure is not sound." "Boy, your machine is smart," said one of the little boys. "Yes, I am," confirmed 124 with pride. A little girl pulled on Miller's trousers. Looking straight up at Miller, she softly asked, "Where are you from?" A couple of the males in the group chimed in with the same sentiment and curiosity. Miller looked to the little girl, who was about 3 years old. "I am from Shelter 1, which is under Columbia University on Manhattan." "Manhattan? Where is that?" Lisa asked. "You don't know Manhattan? Manhattan Island, New York City." He was surprised by Lisa's question. Looking at all their confused faces, he realized none of them had heard of New York. Miller became curious of their depth of knowledge of the world they lived in. "Do you know where you are?" Miller asked. "The farm." They all replied, as if Miller was now the ignorant one. Yes, the farm. But do you know where this farm is?" Miller refined his question. "It's here," one of the young women replied. They now, even the children, started to look at Miller very oddly. A dark-skinned young woman asked, "Did you just fall out of a coconut tree?" "Do you know what a coconut tree is?" asked 124 to the woman. "Yeah, it's a tree that is called a coconut tree." She replied. "That is a circular response." Said 124, "It is meaningless." "Whatever." She walked away. 124 turned to the other family members that remained. "You don't know you are living in Orange, Connecticut?" "What's Connecticut?" several of the adults and children asked. "It is the state you live in." Connecticut is a state of the United States of America. You don't know. Miller was shocked by their lack of basic knowledge. "Man, you're hurting my brain," replied one of the wirily built young men as he too and most of the other adults walked off. "Don't worry about them." Lisa took his hand, pulling Miller to follow her to one of the large tents. "Todd shall meet you." She let go of Miller's hand. Taking the lead in front of him, she walked toward the tent on the left. Miller watched her from behind. He admired her almost cat-like feminine stride. "Nice Piku," he said, only loud enough for 124 to hear his comment. "When did you learn Mandarin Chinese?" 124 asked, understanding Miller's terminology. Turning to reply to 124, he whispered, "We had to study basic Chinese. Running into PLA troops was always an estimated possibility for our team. Besides, Piku is such a nicer sounding phrase than booty, ass, behind, tush, rear, buttocks." Yeah, I get your point." 124 cut Miller off from listing every synonym for the human derriere. "Besides, her Piku has the rounded, perky form as the word sounds." Miller added, "Piku." He smiled to himself, turning his eyes back to Lisa's walk. "Since when did you become aware of the opposite sex?" "Be careful, Romeo. I think you should heed Harry's warning." 124 reminded him as they followed Lisa towards a large tent. "These people may not look it, but they're still mutants. Even this girl with what you think is a shapely Piku." Keeping his voice low, Miller answered, "I have always been aware. I found Anna to be striking and Nora very attractive. I can see Tina becoming even more beautiful than both her sisters as she matures. Just because I may have not said anything to you about it, doesn't mean I am blind." Entering the tent, he ended his conversation with 124. Miller was immediately hit with how smoke-filled the inner space was. He felt the smoke had a strong, sweet, yet pungent smell to it, reminiscent of a skunk spray. It was not the pleasant wood smell that the outside black metal flues were releasing. Miller felt that this odor was anything but comforting. He was tempted to put his helmet back on and re-strap his gas mask to his face. Lisa turned to face him. Smiling, she walked back towards him and took his left hand again, pulling him further into the tent. "Todd needs to meet you."